morning. Welcome to the Scotts Plains Family Board of Education agenda setting meeting, January 23rd, 2020. Would you please rise and join me in the pledge of
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Here. Thank you, Ms. Serda. Now tonight, we have the honor of 8 teachers that are here being recognized as recipients of the 2019-2020 Governor's Educator of the Year Award, as well as 6 individuals that have been identified as recipients as the Governor's Educational Professional of the Year Award. In addition to these 14, the New Jersey Department of Education has named 3 of our secondary level educators as recipients of the 2019 New Jersey Exemplary Secondary Education Award. Dr. Mass, the superintendent, will introduce our principals, who will then speak about each teacher, and then our board members will each read resolutions. At this time, Dr. Mass will introduce Nicole Baxter, supervisor of the K-12 Social Studies, and she will discuss our teachers with our board members.
So this, of course, is a very exciting night. I would like to just start it off with a quote from Mr. Rogers. The best teacher in the world is somebody who loves what he or she does and loves it in front of you. We know that the teachers who are being recognized tonight show the passion for teaching every day to their colleagues, to their students. They have a passion for the content, and they have a passion for empowering their students to do their very best. So thank you for being here tonight, and it's just my honor and privilege to introduce Mrs. Baxter to introduce the teachers.
So I'm really excited to be able to talk about the 3 teachers who are receiving the awards tonight. Should I do them each all together?
Yes.
Okay, great. Because I could really say the same things about all of them, but I'm going to try to point out things that are very unique to each of our teachers. So first, I'd like to call them up. So we have Mr. Ronald Litz from Park Middle School. Ms. Sharon Atta from Carroll Middle School. And Mr. Daniel Valentine from Scotts Plains. As social studies teachers, all 3 of these teachers are really dynamic in the classroom. They really focus on engaging their students in not just learning about the past or learning about the social sciences, but really thinking about how they're going to make change in the world that they live in today. Mr. Litz has been really active with a lot of statewide organizations as a teacher leader, but most notably recently has really learned about how to create games in the classroom to teach students about concepts like power, which is not easy to understand. And he's constantly bringing new innovative approaches to his classroom that he learns from workshops or that he learns about from online resources with other teachers. He teaches his students how to conduct a no-hands discussion in his classroom, which means you can observe 25 7th graders having a civil conversation with each other without raising their hands, without interference by an adult, and saying really insightful and meaningful things. Ms. Atta teaches world history and cultures at Carroll Middle School, several years ago I had the great fortune to actually be teaching across from Ms. Atta, and I was always impressed by her ability to engage kids in things like simulations and projects and debates, and they would reenact things. And about 5 or 6 years ago, she decided that wasn't good enough. Even though her students loved her class and were always learning a lot, she pursued some professional development opportunities that have been so amazing bringing in current research into her classroom. She recently had the opportunity to actually ask Bill Gates in person some questions about the importance of teaching history, and her students really have benefited from her passion and her desire to continue learning and perfecting her craft. Mr. Valentine also does wonderful things in his classroom, but most people know Mr. Valentine because he's involved in so many things outside the classroom. He's been a leader for the Education Association. He's a leader for the Educational Foundation. He serves on lots of different committees. But in the classroom, he teaches topics that are really difficult and abstract. So things like philosophy, which for most adults, you know, if you go and observe his class, you will learn a lot, and you will think a lot, but he does it in a way that makes it really accessible for all students and really engages kids in the study of whatever topic they're doing. I really have such a great job in being the supervisor of these three wonderful teachers. They make my job really easy and extremely interesting and exciting, and we're just really happy to present them with the awards tonight.
Members, please read this resolution.
So the first resolution, whereas Ronald Litz, a 7th grade U.S. history teacher at Park Middle School, has been selected by the New Jersey Department of Education as a recipient of the 2019 New Jersey Exemplary Secondary Educator Award. Whereas Ronald Litz engages and excites his students by using inquiry-based and game-based instruction in the study of American history and civics. And whereas Ronald Litz utilizes carefully planned lessons to teach his students how to participate in no-hands discussions, make coherent arguments, and carefully examine historical events. And whereas Ronald Litz supports students in becoming thoughtful and active citizens through his commitment to the individual service learning model. And whereas Ronald Litz serves as a teacher leader in his capacity as a new teacher mentor, cooperating teacher, Woodrow Wilson History Quest mentor, professional development instructor. And whereas Ronald Litz models for the students the concept of lifelong learning by constantly researching and implementing best practices in areas such as integrated technology, game-based learning into social schools. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Scott Plains Family Board of Education recognizes and commends Ronald Litz for being selected as Park Middle School's recipient of the 2019 New Jersey Exemplary School Educator Award and extends him the best wishes for his continued success. Next, Sharon Hatta. Whereas Sharon Hatta, an 8th grade world history teacher at Terrell Middle School, has been selected by the New Jersey Department of Education as the recipient of the 2019 New Jersey Exemplary Secondary Educator Award. And whereas Sharon Hatta is highly engaged hands-on educator that helps students connect the past to the present. And whereas Sharon Hatta teaches students to think critically about history and the social sciences, cultivating their curiosity, nurturing their love of learning. And whereas Sharon Hatta serves as a teacher leader, collaborates with experts and teachers with the Global Network of Teachers for the Big History Project, and where Sharon Hatta supports her colleagues in their own professional growth and development in her role as a mentor, peer coach, and professional development instructor, and where Sharon Hatta exemplifies the district's goal of lifelong learning by pursuing her own professional learning and using that knowledge to enhance the learning experience of her students and colleagues. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Scott Plains Family Board of Education recognize and commend Sharon Hatta for being selected as Terrell Middle School's recipient of 2019 New Jersey Exemplary Secondary School Educator Award and extends her best wishes for her continued success. Whereas Daniel Valentine, a teacher of global perspectives and philosophy at Scott Plains Family High School, has been selected by the New Jersey Department of Education as a recipient of the 2019 New Jersey Exemplary Secondary Educator Award. And whereas Daniel Valentine continuously challenges his students every day to explore difficult concepts and develop the skill needed to successfully participate in a complex and changing world. And whereas Daniel Valentine collaborates with colleagues to develop curriculum, cultivating resources, and create instructional strategies that promote global citizenship. And whereas Daniel Valentine works with his peers and the community members in many capacities to enhance all aspects of the school district, providing thoughtful and insightful reflections to move initiatives forward. And whereas Daniel Valentine serves in many leadership capacities to enhance the entire learning community of Scott Plains Family, including trustees of the Educational Enrichment Foundation, leader of the SBFBA, peer coach, professional development instructor. And And whereas Daniel Valentine demonstrates the district's mission of promoting lifelong learners by seeking opportunities for growth and sharing his learning with colleagues and students. Now therefore be it resolved that Scotch Plains Family Board of Education recognizes and commends Daniel Valentine for being selected as Scotch Plains Family High School recipient of the 2019 New Jersey Executive Secondary School Educator Award, and sends you the best wishes for his continued success.
Good evening, everybody. Congratulations to all the award recipients tonight. Thank you to Mrs. Baxter for keeping the tradition of doing things alphabetically in order, because it's usually Brunner or Bortnick, so it's nice that Baxter can slip in there. I'm really excited to talk about two wonderful people that work at Brunner, Ms. Dawn Leshak, who is an instructional aide, and Ms. Kristen Lipari, who is a first grade teacher. If you can come and join me. That there are award recipients and they work together in the same classroom. So it's really a magical team. There are other team members who are with us tonight that are also a part of Room 111. There's two words that I can think of that I think describe both of these women just beautifully, and that's creativity and patience. They have endless amounts of creativity and patience. It's not uncommon to see Dawn in the hallway with students, helping giving them an energy break, playing games with them. We do have kickball in the hallway. Schools are really different now than they used to be. And Dawn's out there engaging with it, and it just is a sign of love and care. And she has the just uncanny ability to always see children in their best light. When you're talking about behaviors or things, Dawn has a way of talking about it in a way that separates who the child is from what the challenge is that we're working on. And she just always sees the kid for the best of who they are. And it's just absolutely beautiful. So it's Dawn Leshak. And Kristen Lipari, in first grade, there are a lot of challenges. And one of the challenges is that some of the children come to first grade at a reading level where there aren't many things on the page because the level is low and the topics in the books are not super engaging for the kids. So motivation is a huge factor when you're working with reluctant readers. So Kristen works to get to know her kids, not just so they feel a sense of belonging in the classroom, but truly so she can know the assets that the kids bring into the classroom, and then she uses those assets and writes her own books for the kids about them and what their strengths are in the classroom. And that's like insane and amazing and beautiful and just so awe-inspiring. Kristen also has this uncanny ability to have like cartoon woodland animals land on her shoulders and follow her around as if she were a Disney princess. And she also involves Disney a lot in her teaching, which also thoroughly engages kids. And you've never, I mean, if you just look at all the children that are here tonight that were either in her class in the past or are currently in her class, I just think that says way more than any accolades I can give her, is that so many of her kids and families are here tonight to celebrate with her, so congratulations. It's also really cool that we have a Brunner parent board member.
Whereas Kristen Lipari, a first grade teacher in the Scotch Plains Fanwood Public Schools, has been named Brunner Elementary School's recipient of the 2019-2020 Governor's Educator of the Year Award. And whereas Kristen Lipari is a gifted and talented teacher that has a wonderful ability to really understand her students in order to create a bridge between the students' individual interests and the classroom content. And whereas Kristen Lipari knows the importance of establishing positive relationships with the parents of her students in order to communicate with each family individually. And whereas Kristen Lipari writes books where the main characters are her students and connects the stories to the students' interest, and whereas Kristen Lipari develops multidisciplinary centers that ties in her classroom content through STEM activities that engage all of her students. And whereas Kristen Lipari is a creative and caring educator who has earned the respect and admiration of her students and their parents, her colleagues, and our administrators for her unselfish commitment to her students and the district. Now therefore, be it resolved that the Scotch Plains Fanwood Board of Education recognizes and commends Kristen Lipari for being honored as Brunner's Elementary School's recipient of the 2019-2020 Governor's Educator of the Year Award and extends to her best wishes for continued success. Has been named Brunner Elementary School's recipient of the 2019-2020 Governor Educational Professional of the Year Award. And whereas Dawn Leshak is an exceptionally skilled and talented classroom aide who is dedicated to her students. And whereas Dawn Leshak is a curious and inquisitive individual that uses what she learns about her students and what motivates them to build a connection between their interests, passions, and school. And whereas Dawn Leshak's greatest strengths are her patience and her ability to promote student independence by knowing just the right amount of support so that her students do their best work. And whereas Dawn Leshak is a creative and caring classroom aide who has earned the respect and admiration of her students and their parents, her colleagues, and our administrators for her unselfish commitment to her students and the district. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Scotch Plains Fanwood Board of Education recognizes and commends Dawn Leshak for being honored as Brunner Elementary School's recipient of the 2019-2020 Governor's Educational Professional of the Year Award and extends to her best wishes for her continued success.
I'd like to invite Dr. Weatherall to come up and
Congratulations to all of our award recipients. I'd like to ask for first grade teacher Charlene Jackson, instructional aide Terry Pitts, to come forward, my friends. A couple years ago. She's traveled around the district as instructional and a one-on-one aide with a self-contained class. We're so lucky to have Terry at Bowles. She brings smile and poise to the school every day. She has this amazing way of anticipating what's going to happen before it happens. As an example, she knows the child she's working with is about to have a meltdown before that child even realizes he's about to have a meltdown. And she's able to step in and provide the assistance, provide the support that's needed to help them. She has She's requested by so many teachers to work in her classroom. She has this ability to look around, read the room, see who needs help, and to step in. But a lot of kids don't like to have help from an aide, so she really has a way of helping, supporting very discreetly without hurrying around. We are certainly really lucky to have Terry at Coles. Congratulations. Charlene is first grade teacher at Coles. Charlene comes from a family of educators. She really thought she was going to go into teaching, and she said, no, I'm not. I'm going to go do something else. But fate brought Charlene back to teaching, and we are so lucky that she was brought to Coles, and so lucky with all of our students. Charlene can see the big picture. She never sweats the small stuff. She never shows that she's frustrated, never shows she's never rattled, never shows that she's discouraged. She's one of the kindest people I've ever met, and every student in her class is lucky to be there. And when you're a student in Charlene's class, you know what it's like to be truly loved by your teacher. When she has to share some tough information with parents, she's able to do it in such a kind and a loving way, and the parents thank her for that. When you try to give Charlene a compliment, she will then direct you to everybody else who has done so much more to help her do whatever she has done, and she always feels undeserving of the compliments that she receives, but she is so deserving. She works really well with her colleagues, with her grade level partners, and she has really proven that by working together, we can all get through anything, and we thank you for all of that. Congratulations.
Whereas Charlene Jackson, a first grade teacher in the Scott Plains family public schools, has been named Coles Elementary School's recipient of the 2019-2020 Governor's Educator of the Year Award. And whereas Charlene Jackson sees the best in every student and is able to create a strong partnership with parents, providing consistent support for the child both in the classroom and at home. And whereas Charlene Jackson brings a sense of calmness and understanding of the bigger picture to her classroom, facing every challenge with a smile. And whereas Charlene Jackson has a proven history of bringing the most struggling readers to love and appreciate books, she leads her students to higher levels of comprehension through immersion of books and other printed materials. And whereas Charlene Jackson demonstrates her love of being part of the Coles community by being a leader outside of the classroom as well, she brings positive energy to her colleagues, regularly meeting with her grade level team to discuss instruction and brainstorm strategies to meet students' needs, and provides wisdom and sage advice when facing challenges in their classroom. And whereas Charlene Jackson's impact on students, both academically and emotionally, is unprecedented, her relationship with staff and parents is commendable. And whereas Charlene Jackson is a creative and caring educator who has earned the respect and admiration of her students and their parents, her colleagues and our administrators for her unselfish commitment to her students and the district, now therefore be it resolved that the Scotch Plains Family Board of Education recognizes and commends Charlene Jackson for being honored as Coles Elementary School's recipient of the 2019-20 Governor's Educator of the Year Award and extends to her best wishes for her continued success. Whereas Terry Pitts has been named Coles Elementary School's recipient of the 2019-2020 Governor's Educational Professional of the Year Award. And whereas Terry Pitts is an exceptional classroom aide who has spent many years in a self-contained classroom as classroom aide, as well as one-on-one aide, working with the most academically fragile and challenged students. And whereas Terry Pitts approaches each student as an individual and develops positive working relationships with each one, she understands their needs and personalities to understand and motivate the students to work to the best of their ability. Mrs. Pitts is able to assist even the most reluctant student and helps them to make good academic and social choices. And whereas Terry Pitts brings a positive, encouraging attitude to work every day, she is highly requested by classroom teachers to provide support in the classroom. She is effective when working with students, yet knows when the student is able to work independently. She has a keen ability to read the room and determine where she is most needed. And whereas Terry Pitts is a creative and caring aide, who has earned the respect and admiration of her students and their parents, her colleagues and our administrators for her unselfish commitment to her students and the district. Now therefore be it resolved that the Scotch Plains Fanwood Board of Education recognizes and commends Terry Pitts for being honored as Coles Elementary School's recipient of the 2019-2020 Governor's Educational Professional of the Year Award and extends to her best wishes for her continued success.
I'd like to invite Colleen Hubbard up.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I'm very happy to extend my best wishes to all of our honorees in the district, and I feel very privileged to be able to invite Mr. Spfboe, our teacher. Up, please. So we made our announcement of our Educator of the Year nominee on the day that we had our sing-along, and we had just had a wonderful sing-along, and we were ending the sing-along, and I had the privilege and honor of making that announcement. And if you had been here as a visitor, you would have seen this room erupt in joy and excitement as the students and over 40 staff members looked to Mr. Foray with, oh my gosh, that is so fabulous. Our wonderful, wonderful teacher has won this award. We even had students who were crying tears of joy because they love him so much. When you talk with Scott, you understand he is a person who has had his dream fulfilled and realized. He is so thankful to be a teacher. His gratitude infuses everything he does. His teaching, his communication, his interactions with students, with colleagues, and with families. On the vision poster he created with his students, he has the Clemens quote, "Art has the role in education of helping children become like themselves instead of more like everyone else." Scott, as you approach each class with wonder, you assist our students with the eternal question of who am I? By assisting them in discovering who they are as artists and as human beings. We all thank you for the joy and gifts you bring to the table and celebrate with pride your distinguished honor. We're so proud of you and so happy that we get to have you in our school. Congratulations.
Whereas Scott Foray, an elementary art teacher in Scotch Plains Fanwood Public Schools, has been named Evergreen Elementary School's recipient of the 2019-2020 Governor's Educator of the Year Award. And whereas Scott Foray communicates with the students in a way that is both calming and affirming, Mr. Foray encourages his students to try their way of creating art, helping them realize that as long as they have tried their hardest, their artwork is perfect. And whereas Scott Foray supports each student's passion and makes every child who enters his classroom feel like they are the most important child in the room. And whereas Scott Foray goes above and beyond to ensure that the students are constantly interested and engaged, Mr. Foray guides his students to become a teacher for their peers during specific art projects. And whereas Scott Foray is a valuable asset to the students and the school community by demonstrating relentless dedication. And whereas Scott Foray is a creative and caring elementary art teacher who has earned the respect and admiration of the students and their parents, his colleagues, and our administrators for his unselfish commitment to his district, his students, and the district. Now therefore be it resolved that the Scotch Plains Fanwood Board of Education recognizes and commends Scott Foray for being honored as Evergreen Elementary School's recipient of the 2019-2020 Governor's Educator of the Year Award and extends to him best wishes for his continued success.
I would like to invite Dr. Sasha Slocum up to the mic, please.
Hold it, it's a little low. This is such a heartwarming night and fills us with such joy. I have so much joy to announce our Educational Services Professional of the Year, Ms. Lynna Tweeten, and our Educator of the Year, Ms. Kristen Cicchini. I started with the word joy too because these two professionals work in different parts of the building and don't have too much communication on a day-to-day basis. Ms. Cicchini is a kindergarten teacher and Ms. Tweeten is a teacher for our Students Obtaining Success program. She works with basic skills for math and for language arts. So the two don't meet that often, yet I think everybody in our building would describe both of them as spreading immense joy to everybody, to their colleagues, to children, and to families. They are just full of life and vibrancy. It's such a pleasure to work with them. So I'm going to start with Mrs. Tweeten. I was in her class the other day, and just her ability to make kids feel part of the community, feel like they belong when they need extra support is just unbelievable. She calls her math groups and her book groups clubs, so the kids are so excited, they can't wait to get there, and they really struggle in her class. They work hard, they try to prove themselves in there. And one student the other day in her room got a little teary while the other two were working on a really tough math problem, and Ms. Tweeten, with her joyful presence, lowered her voice and she quietly spoke to him and said, this is hard. And the other child said, yeah, this is really hard, and got teary. And she said, but look, you did it right here. You did it just before. And completely flipped him around. Immediately, I was crying then too. but she completely flipped him around. He sucked it up and said, yeah, and wiped his tear away and worked on the problem. And within minutes was back participating with the other two, and it's just the beauty of what she does on a daily basis. So we are so grateful. She is absolutely revered by her colleagues because she has so many great, she became certified in Norton Gillingham in order to provide more services for our students, and she is a resource for all of our teachers in our school. But she also just lifts us up with her joyful attitude. And the same is true for Ms. Cicchini, who is just a bright star in kindergarten. She's in her 4th year of teaching now, and she's an expert in her craft. I mean, she's always wanting to learn. She studies our kindergarten students. She tries out new techniques she has done research with students from other classes in order to practice her own craft. But she is just an incredible inspirer of the children. When they come into her classroom, parents describe her this way, teachers describe her this way. She sees every single child as capable of learning, and she finds the strength in all of them. As much has been said about the teachers before that have been up here, this is very true for Kristen and for Lynna as well. She brings the outside community, into her classroom so that kids have real experiences with nature and how to explore, how to write about it, how to create it with art, and she takes them out into nature as well on nature walks to find answers to their questions. She's just a delight to have, and I'm very proud of both of them. Congratulations.
Whereas Kristen Cicchini, a kindergarten teacher in the Scotch Plains Fanwood Public Schools, has been named McGinn Elementary School's recipient of the 2019-20 Governor's Education of the Year Award. And whereas Kristen Cicchini is an innovative and positive teacher that believes in every student that enters her room, acknowledging and celebrating the students' special talents and abilities. And whereas Kristen Cicchini helps to produce brave and confident learners, consistently emphasizing what her students can do instead of what they have yet to achieve. And whereas Kristen Cheney definitely meets the students at their individual level by designing well-thought and engaging lessons, providing students with the opportunity to explore new ideas and challenge themselves. And whereas Kristen Cheney continuously communicates with parents, keeping the community connected. And whereas Kristen Cheney is a creative and caring teacher who has earned the respect and admiration of her students and their parents, her colleagues, and our administrators for her unselfish commitment to her students and the district. Now therefore be it resolved that the Scotch Plains Stanwood Board of Education recognizes and commends Kristen Cheney for being honored as McGinn Elementary School's recipient of the 2019-20 Governor's Educator of the Year Award and extends to her best wishes for her continued success. Whereas Lynna Tweeton, a basic skills teacher in the Scotch Plains Stanwood Public Schools, has been named McGinn Elementary School's recipient of the 2019-20 Governor's Educational Professional of the Year Award. And whereas Lynna Tweeton is passionate about learning and helping students believe in themselves. And whereas Lynna Tweeton supports both students and staff with her bubbly, warm personality and deep knowledge of reading, writing, and math. Whereas Lynna Tweeton is a self-motivated individual and completing the Orton-Gillingham certification to better meet the needs of her students. And whereas Lynna Tweeton's ability to connect with students and willingness to provide support to colleagues make her a valuable part of her school community. And whereas Lynna Tweeton is a creative and caring professional who has earned the respect and admiration of her students and their parents, her colleagues, and our administrators for her unselfish commitment to her students and the district. Now therefore be it resolved that the Scotch Plains Stanwood Board of Education recognizes and commends Lynna Tweeton for being honored as McGinn Elementary School's recipient of the 2019-20 Governor's Educational Professional of the Year and extends to her best wishes for her continued success. I'd like to invite Justin Fiore up to the mic, please.
Congratulations again to all of our recipients tonight. I'd like to welcome to the stage Mr. Laura Edwards and Jessica Cavalieri. So earlier, one of the principals said that they had a candidate, or they had someone up here who was just beyond nervous, didn't really want to be the one up here. Deb, what do you think? So if there is anyone who does not like the spotlight, it would be Deb. She came to me, she says, I'm really nervous. I said, I'm the one who has to give the speech. And normally you think, well, what am I going to say? This is an easy one. Both of these individuals are truly, truly outstanding educators. Deb just does an amazing job of juggling. She is an instructional aide in the kindergarten classroom and truly just has to juggle every day. I'll walk in and 1 minute she's helping the teacher organize her classroom library or cleaning out her closet, and the next minute she's helping a child and there's a child on her lap. She's crying, she's cleaning up paint. I mean, it's just amazing the things that go on. And she does it all with a smile on her face each and every day. She's truly someone that we can turn to whenever we need something done. She's just a truly amazing, amazing, strong individual who we are truly blessed to have at our school. Congratulations. And it looks like the art teachers are cleaning up tonight because we have another art teacher here. Congratulations to Jessica Cavalieri. Jessica works both at School 1 and McGinn, although I argue with Sasha that she belongs at school. She's truly just a wonderful team member. She's part of the staff at both buildings, and everyone absolutely adores her. The work that she's able to do with children is just phenomenal. Our hallways just look amazing every single day you walk down. The work that the kids are able to produce is truly something special. The one thing that's really special about Jessica is that it's not always the work that the children do, but it's the lesson behind it. She has an opportunity to teach kids meaningful lessons that are life lessons. She has them opportunities to go into, she has people come to our building from animal shelters so that the work they do relates to the animal shelter. She donates materials to the animal shelters through that work. They are using, this year, everything is using recycled materials, and kids are just learning such amazing lessons outside of what we would normally be teaching in a classroom. Both of these women are just amazing, and Jessica's done such an amazing job as our art teacher. Congratulations.
Whereas Jessica Cavalieri, an elementary art teacher in the Scotch Plains Public Schools, has been named School 1 Elementary Schools recipient of the 2019-2020 Governor's Educator of the Year Award. And whereas Jessica Cavalieri gives students an opportunity to express themselves through the principles of art, as well as teaches them about opportunities to give back to the community. And whereas Jessica Cavalieri's exceptional skill in teaching may be second to the connection she makes with her students and her ability to bring out the best in the students, and whereas Jessica Cavalieri's teaching schedule is shared with both School 1 and McGinn Elementary Schools, but she gives each school 100%. She is truly part of the staff and is well respected by her colleagues. And whereas the tremendous artwork that Jessica Cavalieri's students are able to create brighten up the hallways and showcases of School 1 and McGinn, and whereas Jessica Cavalieri is a creative and caring elementary art teacher who has earned the respect and admiration of her students and their parents, her colleagues and our administrators for her unselfish commitment to her students and the district. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Scotch Plains Family Board of Education recognizes and commends Jessica Cavalieri for being honored as School 1 Elementary Schools recipient of the 2019-2020 Governor's Educator of the Year Award and extends to her best wishes for her continued success. Whereas Deborah Morton Edwards has been named School 1 recipient of the 2019-2020 Governor's Educational Professional of the Year Award, and whereas Deborah Morton Edwards is an upbeat, hard-working classroom aide that truly has a warm nature. She enters each day with a huge smile and positive attitude, and whereas Deborah Morton Edwards motivates others to be better with her kind words and insight, she's always ready to assist in any way that she can and has an amazing ability to anticipate the needs of her students. And whereas kindergarten students love to talk to Deborah Morton Edwards because she really respects them. Mrs. Edwards will stop what she's doing, look the students in the eye, and really listen to them, giving them her full attention. And whereas Deborah Morton Edwards is a true professional who is dedicated to her students and our district, she cares about each student's unique background and gives so much of herself every day. And whereas Deborah Morton Edwards is a creative and caring aide who has earned the respect and admiration of her students and their parents, her colleagues and our administrators for her unselfish commitment to her students in the district. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Scotch Plains Family Board of Education recognizes and commends Deborah Morton Edwards for being honored as School 1's Elementary Schools recipient of the 2019-2020 Governor's Educational Professional of the Year Award and extends to her best wishes for her continued success.
Now I'd like to invite Dr. Jocelyn Dumers to the mic, please.
Good evening. Congratulations to all of the amazing winners out there. I have the pleasure of discussing two educators whom I deeply admire and respect. Leah Kaluzny, one of our instructional aides, and Elena Goldmark, one of our special education teachers. Come on up. The This is both of their worst nightmares. They're so humble and modest, but that's okay. We're going to get through it, ladies. So, what I can say about both of these ladies together is that they're being honored among a field of all of you educators out there who I think we can say the same thing in terms of classroom. The classroom instruction is engaging. They're respectful to students. They really get down on their level. They're creative. They're independent thinkers. And I would say the same to all of the nominees and the winners tonight. But I think what really sets them apart is all of the work they do outside the classroom that really just puts them over the edge. So first, Leah Kaluzny, one of our instructional aides, does all the work that she can possibly do to make Park beautiful, both the hallways and also the hearts of our staff. She decorates bulletin boards. She creates sensory stations for students. She has beautified Park's garden, and she also does things for staff members, like she does the welcoming kickoff for all of our instructional aides when we come back. And that's really all of her saying, hey, can I do this? And I say, please, Leah, do whatever you want. Because everything she does is amazing for both students and staff, and we are truly fortunate to have her. Leah, please. Elena Goldmark, one of our special education teachers, as I mentioned, has the dubious task of teaching 8th grade special ed for language arts and writing workshop. And getting 8th graders to really love reading is a challenge, and especially when reading is difficult, but she steps up to the plate and makes them love both reading and writing immensely. The first opening line of the nominee letter was, Elena Goldmark is known as a goddess to her colleagues. That was literally word for word. And that is absolutely true. She will do anything for her colleagues, whether it's helping with IEP writing or Power School help. She's led professional development workshops. She's the first one in my office advocating for a student, and she really will just take any of her instruction above and beyond the call. And I know that she has my respect, Leah has my respect, and they're both just really phenomenal educators. So congratulations.
Whereas Elena Goldmark, a special education teacher in the Scotch Plains Family Public Schools, has been named Park Middle School's recipient of the 2019-2020 Governor's Educator of the Year Award. And whereas Elena Goldmark is an innovative educator who creates authentic lessons on a daily basis, helping her students make connections between the curriculum and their world. And whereas Elena Goldmark is an expert of differentiation techniques to meet and inspire all learners. And whereas Elena Goldmark is a colleague that everyone goes to for feedback on everything from writing IEP writing to instructional techniques. And whereas Elena Goldmark is a creative and caring special education teacher who has earned the respect and admiration of her students and their parents, her colleagues and administrators for her unselfish commitment to students of the district. Now therefore be it resolved that the Scotch Plains Family Board of Education recognizes and commends Elena Goldmark for being honored as Park Middle School's recipient of the 2019-2020 Governor's Educator of the Year and extends to her best wishes for her continued success. Whereas Leah Kaluzny has been named Park Middle School's recipient of the 2019-2020 Governor's Educational Professional of the Year Award. And whereas Leah Kaluzny has outstanding classroom aid that consistently goes above and beyond in the service of the students. And whereas Leah Kaluzny creates sensory stations in common spaces for students understanding their need for a brain break. And whereas Leah Kaluzny brightens the hallways of Park Middle School by decorating the ever-changing bulletin boards to inspire everyone who walks the halls and making Park a more beautiful place to learn and work. Whereas Leah Kaluzny is a creative and caring aide who has earned the respect and admiration of her students, their parents, her colleagues and administrators for her unselfish commitment to her students and the district. Now therefore be it resolved that the Scotch Plains Fanwood Board of Education recognizes and commends Leah Kalusny for being honored as Parks Middle School's recipient of the 2019-2020 Governor's Educational Professional of the Year Award and extends to her best wishes for her continued success. Dr. Kevin Holloway, please come to the mic.
Again, good evening and congratulations to all the recipients. I have the pleasure of speaking on behalf of John Shepley, a 5th grade teacher at Tower School. John. So I'm going to start by saying that John is amazing. They say that you have to reach them to teach them, and that's what John does so naturally. He has an innate ability to reach every student that walks through his classroom. In his classroom, the students know that they're valued and they have a voice. His classroom is vivacious. It's a place where thinking is the expectation. The nomination that was submitted on John's behalf, it was written that John saved my child. Mr. Shepley saved my child. And that was so powerful, and I think that that just resonates with regard to who John is as a person and as an educator. So every child that walks through your door has been fortunate to have you. Terrell Middle School is fortunate to have you. Congratulations, this is well deserved. You deserved it many years ago.
Whereas John Shetlick, 5th grade teacher in Scotch Plains Fanwood Public Schools, has been named Terrell Middle School's recipient of the 2019-20 Governor's Educator of the Year Award. And whereas John Shetlick is a highly effective teacher whose encouraging demeanor is a beacon of socio-emotional and pedagogical hope for diverse learners, teaching by example, and whereas John Shetlick's ability to connect with kids is evident from the first day of school, letting his students know that his classroom is a place where all voices are heard, all ideas are safe, and dignity can thrive. And whereas John Shetlick engages his students through their hearts and dreams so as to cultivate the minds of the children, making profound and ongoing efforts to get to know each student's learning style, extracurricular interests, areas of academic strength and challenges, and whereas John Shetlick is a dedicated and talented educator who has earned the respect and admiration of his students and their parents, his colleagues and our administrators for his unselfish commitment to his students and the district. Now therefore be it resolved that the Scotch Plains Fanwood Board of Education recognizes and commends John Shetlick for being honored as Terrell Middle School's recipient of the 2019-20 Governor's Educator of the Year Award and extends to him best wishes for his continued success.
Dr. David Heisey, please come to the mic.
Dr. Matt, ask Jan Allen to come up front and center, please. I love music because of Miss Allen. Or Miss Allen has pushed me beyond what I was even thought I was capable of doing. Or I didn't realize you could work so hard, put so much time into something, and love it at the same time. So those are just a few of the things that were written or were said to me regarding Jan Allen. So If you don't know Jan Allen, she is our vocal music teacher at Scotch Plains Family High School. She's involved with anything that even remotely is associated with vocal music, such as the fall play, or the spring musical, or any other musical or vocal group that we have at Scotch Plains Family High School. And just to illustrate some of those statements that I opened with, we have numerous students every year that begin and move on from the All-State course to All-Eastern to what's next, All-International. I'm not sure what it is, but we have students that excel in the area of vocal music, not to mention the awards that our spring musical has received over the course of several years. Just the other day I was having a conversation with Jan Allen, and she said, I need more students in chorus. I want to get more students in chorus. I said, okay, well, we're going to have to build an addition onto the high school because, you know, we don't have room for them anymore, but we'll make it work. So, I mean, she's always looking to expand the program. She is enthusiastic. One thing I made note of is that Jan Allen has had student teachers. I can think of no one that's a better role model that would instill a strong work ethic and a love of music to a future music educator. And lastly, I do want to mention that she has been given the honor of conducting the mixed choir of the Central New Jersey Music Educators Association. So the top, the top vocal students in this area, I believe that's this weekend, right? She'll be directing that group. So obviously there are other people that recognize the merits and the hard work, the dedication, and the knowledge and expertise that Jan Allen has as our vocal music teacher. Jan Allen.
Whereas Jan Allen, Scotch Plains Fanwood High School's choral director and repertory theater producer and musical director in the Scotch Plains Fanwood Public Schools, has been named Scotch Plains Fanwood High School's recipient of the 2019-2020 Governor's Educator of the Year Award. Whereas Jan Allen's passion for music motivates her students to become great musicians and great people, treating all of her students as if they were her own. And whereas Jan Allen raises the bar and ignites the flame for students in the music department by helping her students grow as choral students, vocal performers, musicians, and actors and actresses, inspiring many students to continue their musical education and even become music teachers. Whereas under the direction of Jan Allen, the choir ensemble receives high marks and praise for their performances, ranking first place in Superior in last year's competition during the Festival of Music in Boston. And whereas Jan Allen is a creative and caring educator who has earned the respect and admiration of her students and their parents, her colleagues, and our administrators for her unselfish commitment to her students and the district. Now therefore be it resolved that the Scotch Plains Fanwood Board of Education recognizes and commends Jan Allen for being honored as Scotch Plains Fanwood High School's recipient of the 2019-2020 Governor's Educator of the Year Award and extends to her best wishes for her continued success.
Motions read this evening. Can I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. Dr. Mass, you want to say?
Two things. All of the recipients of an award this evening, again, congratulations. And we need you to come up to the front for a picture. And we have some cookies and drink in the back for your celebration. The board meeting is going to continue
So we will be leaving you now to continue our board meeting. But congratulations again.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Okay. So we had our opening ceremonies in the multi-purpose room, or the gym, cafeteria, whatever the other room is in Evergreen called, and we started our meeting there. We also had exec prior to that, and in exec we talked about the personnel agenda, the HIB report, the legal status report, and the suspension and detention report. At this time, we have additions to the agenda. This was added after Friday the 17th. One LET from Mrs. Diane Schweitzer regarding field lighting at the high school. 3S, field trip additional trip. And 15 BUS, approval of the 5-year long-range facilities plan. The New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Scotch Plains Fanwood Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted at the Board of Education offices at 512 Cedar Street, Scotch Plains, New Jersey. Such notice was provided in written notice form and forwarded to the Star Ledger, the Times, the Township Clerk of Scotch Plains, and the Borough Clerk of Fanwood, and the revised annual notice of regularly scheduled meetings adopted on August 29, 2019. Now, the instructional update that we had in the other room was the recognition of the 2019-2020 Governor's Educator of the Year Awards, recognition of the 2019 New Jersey Exemplary Educators for Elementary. As we continue now, we're going to have another instructional update about the field lighting presentation. And that is going to be from Bob Zeller from Musco Sports Lighting, who is here tonight. Musco Sports Lighting is a credible vendor, and he is here to provide information on the field lights and answer any questions that the board may have. The floor is yours.
Everyone. My name is Bob Zoller. I'm the technical consultant for Musco Sports Lighting. And I thank you all for this opportunity to come share the proposed sports lighting system for 2 athletic fields at Scotch Plains Fanwood High School. Just by a quick way of introduction, Musco Sports Lighting has been providing sports lighting solutions for 44 years. Since 1999, when I began with Musco 20 years ago, Musco has provided over 1,100 lighting solutions for New Jersey athletic facilities. I've been privileged to have been working on and providing lighting for Scotch Plains for the Votech baseball and soccer field in 2006, the Southside Park Soccer in 2008, and the Kramer Park Tennis in 2012. We've also provided sports lighting solutions for over 350 high school fields in the state of New Jersey. What we're talking about today is lighting 2 athletic fields at the high school. This is an aerial view, and just to look at the ones we're going to be illuminating, we'll zoom in a little bit. We're talking about the multi-purpose field that's surrounded by the track, and adjacent to that we have the soccer field immediately to the south. What we are proposing is to light the fields to what would be today's lighting levels, and that is a maintained average of 50-foot candles on the playing field. Now, in order to show you what we would require to do that, the field itself we'll look first at the field with track. The field would have 4 lighting poles, 2 to the north side and then 2 to the south side. The 2 at the south side would serve as what we call common poles to light both the football, multi-purpose field, and the soccer field. In addition, we have the track and the track surrounding the field. When we are lighting the multi-purpose field, we would utilize the 4 poles to provide that lighting. We also have the track to illuminate. And what we've done is, with the track, in order to keep the lighting aimed into the lighting field itself, we have 2 shorter poles that are at the apex of the track. So that this way, when there's a track event, all of the lighting is aimed downward and into the playing field. The soccer field, which is immediately to the south, would also be illuminated with 4 poles. The common poles between the football field on the north side and 2 additional poles on the south side. Again, providing an average of 50-foot candles on the field. 50-foot candles is the typical lighting level for providing all athletic sports that would be played at varsity high school level. In addition, what we are providing is some pathway lighting. I'm looking at the west side of the field. The parking lot would be down in this portion. As you would come from the parking lot, there would be a pathway that would go to the bleachers for the soccer field. We would have 3 short 20-foot poles that would illuminate a pathway to go to the soccer field. And then we would have additional 10 20-foot poles that would illuminate the pathway that goes up to the concession area and goes behind the field and up into the visitor side of the field. The pathway lighting is just low-level lighting just for safety to be able to walk to the playing fields from the parking area. Now, the important part of this application is the fact that we do have homes that are adjacent to the fields. And so it was conveyed to us that it was very important that we be able to minimize any impact to the adjacent residents around the field. In order for me to share about that and how we can do that, I have a picture of the evolution of sports lighting fixtures. Starting in 1977 on the left, basically the sports lighting fixture was just simply a bulb inside a parabolic dish, and light went everywhere. As time went on through the 80s and into the 90s, various improvements to the lighting fixtures were made. Internal pieces were made to help redirect the light, and external visors were added to shield the light. In 2005, the light structure green, which is right here, the metal halide fixture, became state-of-the-art with the largest shielding capability of any sports lighting fixture. And this is the fixture that is installed on each of the fields here in Scotch Plains. In 2013, we actually made an additional improvement to sports lighting where we introduced the LED fixture. With the LED fixture, we have a greater capacity to control the light, but not only that, we have a greater capacity to shield the light as well. This lighting fixture is the first full cutoff sports lighting fixture that's utilized today in the sports lighting field. By full cutoff, what I mean is that if you extend the line horizontally from the top of the fixture, there's no light that's emitted above the top of the fixture. Just to give you an idea of the impact of that type of shielding, on the left side, this is the Musco TLC LED fixture. You can see there's very little, if no glare, coming from the fixtures because of the level of shielding, as opposed to another LED fixture on the right, which has no shielding whatsoever. It's not the LED that brings the lighting control. It's the LED inside of the reflector and the technology to be able to direct that light where we want that light to go and to shield the view of the light being emitted from the lighting fixture. Here's another example. This is another LED fixture with uncontrolled light. As you can see, glare everywhere, light spillage everywhere. This is what the proposed lighting fixture looks like. The lighting fixture itself has a very large shield that extends outward across the front of the fixture, and you can just see up underneath here, this is the start of the LEDs under the fixture. The LEDs are tucked up inside the fixture so that they're shielded, and the optics and the directionality of the inside of the shield direct the light downward onto the playing field. Here's an example. This is Ocean City High School, located in Ocean City, New Jersey. The bottom fixture shows the HID fixtures. They had 6 existing poles with HID fixtures on them. The HID fixtures had no shielding. You can see the glare from those fixtures. The top picture is the retrofit with the new LED fixtures. You can see the absence of the glare from the fixture because of the shielding. You see the improvement of the lighting on the field and the uniformity of the lighting field. This lighting is 50-foot candles, the same lighting levels we've talked about for the Scotch Plains fields. Here's a picture of Central Regional High School here in New Jersey as well. This is a downward picture from above. And what this picture shows is how quickly the light spillage is cut off around the field. You see we go to darkness just beyond the track, all the way around the field, which gives you an example of how well that lighting can be controlled and directed where we want it to go. Since most of the residences are located to the side of the field as opposed to the long side, the short side, behind the goal, this is a picture of LaSalle High School in Philadelphia. And this picture shows basically looking down the side of the field from goalpost to goalpost. And you can see how, again, there's no glare. Now these poles are a little bit shorter than what we would have in our application. So there's a little bit more light that you see. But as you look, you can see the cutoff immediately right here toward the end of the track. And you can also see cutoff behind the poles and the lack of glare from the lighting fixtures. How much impact will there be from the lighting? What we do is we do what we call a blanket grid. And every 30 feet away from the fields, what we do is we generate a lighting level, a lighting value, how much light we would have. These numbers indicate the amount of light from all of the lighting fixtures on both fields, plus the pathway light being illuminated. So everything is illuminated. These values do not take into account any of the foliage on either sides of the fields, the short sides behind the end zones. Here we see, here are zeros coming down around zeros, and right behind where our pathway is, we have zeros, and up to the top we have zeros. Everywhere you see a zero, that means there's less than a half-a-foot candle of light. A half-a-foot candle of light is considered the safety factor. By that I mean, if you have less than a half-a-foot candle of light, and there's an object on the ground in front of you, when you're walking, you'd probably trip on it. So within somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 to 70 feet from the edge of the track, behind the pathway on one side, off the track on the other side, we get down to that half-a-foot candle level, and it decreases very rapidly after that. With the lighting, the question is always, well, what kind of warranty comes with the lighting? This lighting system comes with a 25-year warranty, parts and labor. So that means that the school district, for 25 years, does not have to worry about if a fixture is not operational, if something's not working, something needs to be replaced. It's covered under warranty. And not only the parts themselves, but also the labor to replace those parts, the labor that's required to take care of anything that would happen. Musco has proactively monitors the system, so typically we find an outage with your lighting system before you'd even be aware of it. We alert the school district that there's an outage. We ask that a fuse be checked in our ballast enclosure or our driver enclosure, which is 10 feet above grade. And if the fuse is good, then Musco is coming out to fix whatever outages you have. The only exceptions to the outages are acts of nature and vandalism and unauthorized repairs. So your system is covered for 25 years, parts and labor. In addition to the warranty, what you have is you have the controls and monitoring system that comes along with that. What that allows you to do is to schedule your lights on and off remotely via computer, app, phone call. This picture on the right-hand side, this is what your iPhone would look like when you go onto the app. There's a username and a passcode that each person that the school district would assign capability to turn the lights on, turn the lights off, would plug in. to that username and passcode, and then they can set the lights to go on at a certain time and off at a certain time. No more worrying about somebody going to turn off a switch and forgetting to turn off a switch. No more times when the time clock is off and the lights stay on all night. Now the lights are going off when they're supposed to go off and they're controlled. And also the school district knows, because of the username and passcode, who is scheduling them, when they went on and when they went off. In addition, this lighting system comes with 3 levels of dimming. So you'll have 100% light, 50% light for occasions where you might not need the full lighting. Maybe there's a practice, maybe there's some other event going on at one of the fields. You can dim the lights to half. And then there's a dimming capability to 15%. So in other words, if there's going to be some cleanup done, some work after a game or after a function going on at the field, the lights can be dimmed all the way down to 15%. Saves energy, also reduces the amount of light that's being illuminated in the fields. And Musco has what we call controlling central. So we have people, live human beings, that can answer a phone call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So if there's any issues with the lights, the phone can be picked up, the 800 number can be called, and they can troubleshoot and take care of the problem over the telephone. I tried it myself. One time I called when the Spfboe was going on, just for my own benefit, to see if somebody really would pick up. And they did pick up pretty quickly, so I was impressed. I don't know if I would have picked it up so quickly. The question then comes, well, how much is it going to cost us to run the lights? If the lights are, the power for the lights is coming from the school, that means that the demand charges that the utility would typically use would be taken care of by the school. So all you have is the operational costs, which is the kilowatt cost usage per hour. So for instance, the football field itself. The football field uses 64.7 kilowatts. And typically a school district is looking at maybe 10 cents, 9 cents, 8 cents a kilowatt hour. So I use 10 cents to be more conservative. So basically, to illuminate the football field, 64.7 kW times 10 cents, it's going to cost roughly $6.50 an hour to run the lights. Running the football track, about $7.32 an hour. The soccer field, a little under $5 an hour. The pathway lighting is about $1.69, about between $1.50 and $2 an hour. And if everything was being operated all at once, it'd be about $12 an hour in terms of cost to operate the fields. The LEDs also have additional benefit. If you've ever been on an athletic field and they had a spike in the electric and the lights went out, it takes about 20 minutes for the lights to cool down and come back on. The LEDs are instant on, instant off. They come on immediately as soon as there's power. So basically, that is what I have to share. Some high schools here in New Jersey that have the Musco LED technology. I shared Central Regional, Donovan Catholic, Homedale, Lacey, Memorial High School in Elmwood Park, Northern Highlands, Ocean City, Pennsauken, Piscataway, Sparta, West Marsh Central, West Marsh, Vendham, and some nearby Musco LED lighting installations: Oak Ridge Park in Clark, Silent Field in Plainfield, Madison Avenue Field in Rahway, Memorial Field in South Plainfield, Chisholm Park in Springfield, Tatlock Park in Summit. We have over 100 installations of the LED. It's a proven technology. I'll share with the Northern Highlands High School. We were trying for about 19 years to light the football field at Northern Highlands High School. And with the advent of the LED technology, we were finally able to control light enough where the town was able to approve the lights. And the lights met the approval. We couldn't exceed a tenth of a foot candle of the property line. We met the requirements. We had no glare, to the point where now Northern Highlands has lit 3 more of their athletic fields, all in conformance to the township requirements. Same thing with Memorial Park and Elmwood Park. There's a row of homes right behind the sideline of the high school football field. When we turned on the lights on that field, the homes were orange colored. And the reason for that is because all the way on the other side of the field in the parking lot, there was a high pressure sodium fixture that was throwing more light all the way across the field onto the homes than the 50-foot candle athletic field right next to those homes. technology exists where we can control light like never before, minimizing the impact, and providing a safe, playable environment for the athletes to be able to enjoy, and for the spectators to enjoy the athletic events. So at that point, I would say that's my presentation. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Should we go back?
Thank you, Mr. Zoller. That was quite informative. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Zoller?
I do.
Stephanie?
Thank you. Hi. So I was just wondering, I understand, I guess the football field and the soccer field and those events, and I don't even know whether this is a question for you, but I didn't know that we had previously discussed the track lighting. Are there track and field events in the evening, or is that more by like passage? Does the track need to be part of that?
We were asked to provide a light level for competition track.
Okay, so I don't know if is that just part? Is that what most schools do?
Some do, some don't. When I first met with the school district, that was something that I was asked to include in the design. Whether you need that or not, that's up to you. But I was just asked to include that.
Doesn't sound like it's a requirement. It sounds like
it's okay. I was just wondering what the rationale.
I'm guessing what you just presented was an all-in, every option possible, the Rolls-Royce of lighting that can be customized to whatever the needs of the district would be, so it's plug and play for the most part.
That's correct.
Thank you. Okay.
I think we have North Ridgewood, whatever it is, beat. From what I understand, it's been 40-plus years. People have been talking about getting lights, so I think we might have them beat by a few years.
Does anybody have any other questions for Mr. Zoller?
I guess you covered a lot in the presentation, and you showed some examples of the lighting changes, and I think the history around lighting has always been the bleeding, and from schools that are in where there are close neighborhoods. Which seems to be in New Jersey, a lot of them, because everything's on top of each other. You did explain it, and I don't know how best to re-clarify it for those residents that may feel that they're impacted by this. But, the controlling of that, to me it was numbers on a paper, right? But aside from seeing it on here, is there any other way, to see it?
Well, I always recommend, that's why I tried to share some names that were close by, some fields that you can go take a look at. I'm happy to, I'll share a complete list of every installation we have in the state of New Jersey. And that's why I always recommend to people is, I can show you so much on the screen, but I always recommend go take a look at one of these installations, walk around it, see what it looks like, see the look of it, to really, satisfy yourself. I was just with a school in Pennsylvania, and what they did was they took people from their board and they went and they took a look at one of the locations and actually walked around, talked to the other school district, found out how they were doing, how things were going with their neighbors. So like I said, I'd be more than happy to give you our complete list of every installation that we have of this type of technology. That's what I always welcome you to go take a look. That's the best way to really get a feel for what it will be.
Mr. Zoller, if you could email that to me when you get an opportunity, I can share it with the board and anybody else who might have an interest in seeing those installations. Thank you.
I have a quick question. The walkway that you had that was lit up, and I apologize, I can't visualize it. Was it the existing walkway?
Yes.
Okay.
The only thing that was not existing as a walkway per se, and I was told that there would be a walkway, is to go over to the soccer grandstands. I believe right now that's just grass.
Right.
No, there's a walkway there. No, there's a walkway there now.
Oh, there's a walkway there, okay.
We just installed it this
last
past
time I was there, it was just grass.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I was told at that point there would be a walkway, now there is. So that would be the walkway that we're talking about there.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, the board has no further questions. If you can just hold on just in case, because we are going to open up to the public right now. So if you can just stand by, just give us a minute. In accordance with the Scotch Plains Fanwood Public Schools Bylaw 01640165, the meeting will be open for 15 minutes for public comments with a maximum of 3 minutes per speaker. Speakers addressing the superintendent items, business functions, and other board business will be heard first. If time remains, speakers may address other matters. When you come to the podium, please state your name and the town in which you reside. Yeah, this is it.
Well, good evening. My name is Kevin McSherry. I live in Scotch Plains, Carroll Place, the house directly behind the scoreboard.
Next week if we don't. It's up to you.
Obviously, it's a detailed presentation for probably where you are in the process of evaluating this, but the one thing that's missing is the impact to the neighborhood. We lived here for about 20 years. We deal with the school all the time, and there's no complaints. We deal with the maintenance starting at 6:30 with weed whackers and leaf blowers in the morning. We deal with the high school games. We're at a lot of them, whether it be baseball, football, soccer. We deal with the PAL on Sunday. We deal with the travel soccer. We deal with the travel lacrosse. And that all that part, the impact is on our block and the blocks surrounding the school. So the one thing that has to be assessed is the impact of the town. Now you're pushing that activity into our nights. We don't have a break. We've been willing to live with it. There hasn't been any complaints from our neighborhood about all the activity at the schools, because a lot of times we're out. We're going to the games. But now you're pushing that into our evenings. And the question I have is why? Simply why? The fields are utilized. The fields are used all the time. Come down and just watch. Sit on my back patio and watch it. The fields are constantly being used. There's not a question of utilization. So it comes back to the question, why? Why do you feel a need to impact it and now drive the activity, the parking around our house all the way into the evening? And it's a very simple question. And I appreciate the presentation on the lighting. I've attended several of them over the years from Scotch Plains. But there's never a question, why are you doing it? And why do you feel the need to push that activity into our evenings, our nights? Because they park on the street. You don't have enough parking to support it. Westfield, Cranford soccer games, you don't have enough parking. Football games, you don't have enough parking. They're on our streets, which is fine. We deal with it, and again, we go to the games. But now that's being pushed into our evenings. When do we get that break? We get the break on a Sunday? Probably not. On Saturday nights, not anymore, because PAL is going to want to have their night. You're getting lights, so you're going to use them. It's simple as that. If you have them, you're going to use them every night and every opportunity you get. And that doesn't include if you decide to rent the fields out for outside use. And again, my question is why? Why do you feel the need that you have to do this?
This is public comment. We're not going to have a question and answer period. You get the chance
That's
to.
fine, but obviously you're far along in the process too, because the utilities have been marked out on the football field. Obviously, there's been planning and engineering towards this.
We have markouts.
So if you can't answer that question, my question to you is where are you in the process?
But, Dr. Kolakowski, I apologize to the board and to the public. I'm remiss. A lot of our meetings, we don't have quite a crowd. So usually when we do, I tend to give the disclaimer before the public starts to come in. Sir, I've paused your time just so I'm not taking up the remainder of your 3 minutes. But just so the public is aware, the portion of the meeting dedicated to public comment is just for that. It's for public comment. The board board is here to listen to anything the public has to add, either on the agenda or anything impacting the school district. The board, given that there's 9 members plus administration, can't respond with a singular voice. Oftentimes, if you do have specific questions, the administration can get back to you individually or to the public, depending on the appropriate way to respond. But this period is for the public to make whatever comments they want to make, to give whatever input they want to give to the board, but it's not a back and forth Q&A. So you have your 3 minutes. You can make whatever comments you like about the items on the agenda at this point. But when the board is just looking back at you, it's because we're just looking for you to let us know when you're done speaking. They're not trying to be rude and ignore your questions. Thank you.
It's back to that, the impact. And the question you're going to have to answer for this town is why. Because I can't understand why that type of activity now is going to be pushed into our fields for no purpose. And again, it's not your high school sports only. It's the other uses of that field throughout the week that we deal with. So, those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Diane Schweitzer. I live Scotch Plains right behind the field, and I'm here to voice my objections. Again, I want to know why. Also, too, is the letter was mailed out on the 17th. It's at the post office. We all didn't get it to Tuesday. And many residents on my street did not even know this was going on today. So we have been not given proper time to get everybody's opinion. I was through the one 10 years ago. The lights were rejected. Everybody on our street were objecting to it because it's going to impact our lives. The value of our house.
Thank you.
That's the problem. Because right now, currently, when you have a big soccer game, they block my driveway. They have tailgated in front of our house. We have garbage left in front of our house. All the cars are there. You can barely get through. That's in a soccer game. Not even a big football game. Now you're talking about during the night. It's just impacting our neighborhood a great time. I think we should have maybe a private meeting with the residents that are going around the area and hear our complaints. But also, too, how is this being paid for and how much is this? I haven't heard of a price. We don't have computers in the high school for our students who are going to good universities. They're using them all the time, but we're putting lights in. I like to know what, I'd like an answer on that one also, too. How come this money isn't being for the education of our children to make our houses more valuable and to get them ready for when they go to college and they're ready to sit in a class that first day with a computer and tablet? Nobody uses a notebook anymore. But we don't have computers yet. We're putting lights in for fields. We used to have a Friday night football game. The football's been going on in this town I've been here my entire life on Saturday afternoons with no problem. The soccer games are full of people. There's enough people there. It's not like they're not that, they can have a greater crowd. But why are you impacting our neighborhood that we have to hear the noise? We hear the band every night to 9:30. We hear the color guard with that clanking to 9:30 every night, and we don't complain. Maybe we should all start complaining, because that's the only way you're going to listen to us. But you're affecting the people here. You're not living in these houses, and I think you really need to take a look at our point before you agree to put the lights in. Yes, the light may not be shining into our house, but what's the other impact of listening to the people yell, the coaches yell, the traffic, and the impact on our neighborhood?
Thank you, Mrs. Schweitzer.
Hello, everybody. My name is Anthony Fiore, 2261 Newark Avenue, Scotch Plains. I'm just back up here just to answer ask a few questions. I'm here mostly regarding the agenda item titled 5-BUS. On tonight's agenda, the transportation study proposal. The motion on the agenda says move that the Board of Education approve the proposal by Ingrid Rattano for transportation study in the amount of and a blank dollar sign. Just some follow-up questions about the transportation study. I know you guys can't answer, but I just want to voice my questions. Number one, is this a full district transportation study or a transportation study just on T5, T6 bus routes? Two, what is the proposal and will it be released to the public? Three, Is this the same Ingrid Rattano currently employed as the transportation manager in the Lakewood Public School District? 4, has Ms. Rattano been given, made aware, or read the 2016 Safe Routes to School Terrell Middle School Travel Plan? 5, is Ms. Rattano familiar with the Southside area, specifically the streets known as Hetfield, West Broad, Martine, Fenimore, Gaycroft, Essex, as well as Terrell Road? 6, will she be working hand in hand with, or has she spoken to Police Chief Conley about this proposal? 7, is she aware of the proposed Parker Gardens approval and its effect on traffic on Terrell Road as per Police Chief Conley? So those are my questions for you tonight. I know you can't answer them. As you could probably tell from these questions, nothing has really changed since last time I stood before you at the podium. Our concerns, just so you know, now it's January, it's now 3 months later, our concerns are still very much active concerns. Okay, we're not going to let this go. Based on previous years, the T5 and T6 parents know that the introduction of the draft budget is coming up next month. So I'm here to make a public comment tonight as the first gentle reminder to you, the Board of Education, that prior to the introduction of the draft budget, you please take into account the previous speakers, letters, emails, pictures, reports, and binders you've received about the importance of including T5 and T6 busing in next year's budget. The T5 and T6 parents and I do not intend to hold our comments until the budget public hearing / final adoption in April. We are well aware by that point that the budget is certified and unlikely to change. Okay, so just making you aware of this, that this is not going away. We plan to be engaged with the BOE meetings. The BOE agenda is coming up. So again, I just ask you to please add T5 and T6 busing to the draft budget and continue to provide busing to our children who attend Terrell Middle School. Thank you.
Excuse me, Mr. Fiore.
Yeah.
Could you please email me those questions so I could try to get answers?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fiore.
Yes, and I would just like to say that we did hire this consultant to review all of our routes and our entire transportation plan, including the T5 and T6.
Okay, thank you. And she's from the Lakewood School District?
Currently, she is employed part-time in Lakewood.
It says full-time on the website.
Well, I think it's 2 days a week.
I was on the Lakewood website last
Yeah.
night.
Yes, Lakewood has very unique transportation needs, and she does have quite an extensive background in transportation for a variety of districts.
Very nice qualifications, yeah. Thank you.
And can we just also add that this is in full transparency and collaboration with both police chiefs and mayors, as we have met with them 2 months ago in the initial dialogue. So this is not a in-a-bag conversation. This has been a very transparent and collaborative discussion with them, and they're involved in this part of the process as well.
I appreciate it.
Okay, would there be anybody else making public comment this evening?
My name is Regina Weisholtz. I live on Old Farm Road. My backyard backs up to the high school fields. And the only thing I would want to say is I want you to consider the impact, not that the lighting has, because right now there actually is a light back there that shines onto certain parts of the high school fields, and that doesn't bother us. So I'm not really concerned about the lighting issue. It's more the parking issue, as someone said before. They do park on our street, and when that comes into the night, we have people coming to our town who may be from out of town, may not respect our homes and our properties as they would as if they lived in town. And how are we going to get those people out after the games are over? What's the process going to be so that people aren't sticking around later and later and later into the night, on the fields possibly even, on our street? How are we going to disperse the people that come to these games? What time are the games or events going to end? What time will the lights be shut off? Are they going to be shut off at all or kept at a certain decibel throughout the night? Those are the kinds of things I want you to take into consideration. I have 2 young children. I want to feel safe on my street. I don't want people who are, drinking or doing whatever, sticking around after games to party or to lick their wounds, whatever the case may be. And also the noise level. How late is it going to be? Like I said, I have 2 young children. I want to be able to get them to sleep at a certain time at night. So I just want you to take into consideration those kinds of things when deciding upon the lighting. Thank you.
Thank you for comments.
Hi everyone, Jim Checkhill, live at 2 Happel Court, right next to the entrance of the high school. With everybody talking about the parking and everything, you should live at my house when you want to see traffic. That should be a 4-way stop for one. We should talk to the town, talk to the chiefs. More so with the lighting, okay, a good presentation. I was just wondering that if it's going to include all the fields, I noticed that the 2 examples up there, one was Central Regional, we were there for wrestling a little while ago. But it doesn't look like it truly illuminates the track as well as the football fields. So that's going to disperse it more to include the tracks because it was modeled on those 2 tracks on both fields up there. Is our lighting going to be better on the track? Not so much for, say, a track event at night, but our marching band competition for our great marching band. I mean, I'm sure that has to be illuminated, but it seems like the track wasn't as well illuminated as the football field. My biggest question. And this is the times, folks. Everybody lives here. We live near the school. I've been dealing with the marching band for 40 years. The football field, our team. I was on the PERF committee. We talked about the lights then, and if we did try to do the lights, we probably wouldn't have gotten them because there was the complaints. But the lighting is so much better. I'm on the planning board. We go through lighting for every project of everything done in the town. It always has to shine down. The LED lights are more efficient. The shielding of these lights is done wonderfully, and these are the guys to do it if we're going to do it. There's no doubt about it. So that's good. That's all.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Will there be anybody else making public comment? Okay, there'll be another opportunity later. Thank you. Moving on to committee reports. Thank you for staying long, Mr. Zoll. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Mrs. Winkler?
I have a report. The Shared Services Committee met this morning, and we had discussions about several issues. We talked a bit about including coordinating with some of our students at the high school to help with some of our senior citizens who are not computer savvy in filling out their census forms. This year is the once every 10-year census, and so we talked about coordinating that possibly with our students. We are considering doing that on the Senior Citizen Day that we have at the high school, which this year is scheduled for March 12th. So we're investigating that now. But what else? We talked about. We mentioned that we were going to have this presentation about the lighting. It is something that has come up quite a bit in shared services discussions between the 2 municipalities about how all the different teams are constantly fighting for space on fields, and that having fields lit into the evenings would add additional time that we could be using these fields. They really were looking to create more of a community space with them. So we talked a bit about that. We talked a bit about there's a budget meeting that was initially scheduled for January that's been rescheduled for February 10th, where administration's going to be meeting with both of the mayors to talk more in depth about the school budget. I think that it's good for them to know, to have better sense of what our budget is and what are our expenses, and they're going to be going over that. We discussed a little bit with them today about special education costs, and it was good. It was a good discussion. I think that they really didn't have a sense of what these expenses are, and so it was helpful to be able to discuss it with them. It'll be good to really sit down with them when that meeting comes up. And then it was discussed that perhaps we will do budget presentation at each of the two councils for a meeting at some point, and let them know what, so that it can be more, nope. Not finding words, I'm sorry. But just to get it out more, I mean, we do the presentations here, and whoever attends or whoever's watching it on the cable channel or can pull it up on our website. But if we also do the presentations at the council meetings, then people who maybe watch those but not ours will also have a sense of it. The police gave us a quick update on the PAL Cops and Kids program. They said it's been going really well. They're getting about 40 kids at each of the sessions, playing games with approximately 8 officers. And there's one session remaining on February 7th at Park, and that program's been going really well. They said that perhaps they'll look into expanding it to indoor and outdoor, and they're having a good time with it. It sounds like the police are having as much fun as the kids are. We talked a bit about the Trex program, which we talked about at our last meeting in November as well. The bins have arrived in Scotch Plains. The green teams from both municipalities met and are working together on this. The bins are going to be placed in several locations around the community, one at each of the libraries, one at each of the municipal buildings, the JCC, the YMCA, the train station, and other locations. We're going to try to reach out and get some bins at each of our schools. It's a sort of a recycling program to recycle thin film plastics. Upcycle, exactly. To upcycle thin film plastics and create like park benches out of them. And for every, I think it's 500 pounds of this plastic that gets collected and turned in, they will give us a bench. And so, so hopefully we can collect some of these things. This plastic includes things like shopping bags from the supermarket, bags from loaves of bread, Ziploc bags, plastic wrapping that comes on the outside of a lot of things. And so that's exciting that they're looking into doing that. And that was about it. Our next meeting will be on March 18th.
Thank you, Mrs. Winkler. Does anybody have any questions for Mrs. Winkler? Thank you.
Facilities.
Okay, go right ahead.
So Facilities Committee met on the 13th. There was a few items that we talked about. First was we got an update on the district network security and all of the good things that are happening in the language which I don't understand. But it sounds like we have a lot of good phishing tests and things like that we do, and it sounds as though we're learning from what other districts have been experiencing when it comes to people trying to hack their network. So the presentation was Adam Strugach, and it was very detailed and very good information. We talked about the bid opening process for Park Masonry for the 28th. We discussed the presentation for this evening for Musco Lighting. And then the last was the long-range facility plan, which needs to be submitted to the state. So that was provided to everybody on the board, and the Facilities Committee is recommending approval of that as it's proposed. That completes our facilities report.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Any questions for Evan? Okay, any other reports?
You can go. We'll go around.
Okay, Ms. Mariani?
I have two. The curriculum committee met last week, and we had only one agenda item, which was to hear about the new digital design course, which was very exciting, I thought. It's a new course this year, and it's offered to 7th graders at both Terrell and Park, and it's a new course. There was previously no art course in 7th grade, so it filled an important gap, and kind of builds on what students had previously learned in fine arts courses, but incorporates technology. So it kind of goes toward our STEAM goals, and it also encourages career readiness because the students are learning design, which there are very many career applications for. So Mr. Millette, the arts supervisor, was there with Mrs. Chendak, who teaches the course, and Mrs. Chendak shared her background, which is as a professional designer and creative director and past jobs in New York City. And what the course does is teaches students Photoshop so they can design and conceptualize digital compositions. The students are encouraged to dialogue about their projects, think critically, and again, like I said, it's aligned with real-world professional design projects. So Mrs. Chendak showed us examples of the students' work that they created and how engaged they are in learning Photoshop, and how some of them actually have used now Photoshop at home and continue their work as junior designers, as she calls them. So I just wanted to pass these around so the rest of the board and maybe the public can see. But Mrs. Chendak creates these newsletters, and I think just like we heard earlier in the Governor's Award presentation, that so many of these teachers go above and beyond outside the classroom, and Mrs. Chendak creates these digital arts newsletters and about the work of her junior designers, and then sends these out to the parents via email. So I thought that was really incredible that she does that. And it's an amazing, innovative course. So she said that people who are now in 8th grade are upset that they didn't get to take it as 7th graders. So anyone now coming up into 7th grade will get to take digital design.
That's great.
So that was the curriculum committee's meeting. I also, do you want to go where I have truth and racial healing?
No, go ahead, and then I'll do mine.
Okay. I see it under committees, so I'll just mention now that Dr. Mast and I attended a meeting for the Truth and Racial Healing group that also involves both mayors in town as well as some town council people, there's some ministers, some various people in town, and it was on one of our first meetings. So we're right now in the planning stages of how we can kind of have difficult conversations in school and in our community about race, and how we can, work to improve relationships. So there was some interest in public being part of meetings. So what the group decided was we need about, a few months to kind of plan and come into fruition as a group, and then, in a structured way, when we have certain items that we could use the public's feedback on, we would consider doing that. And Dr. Mast and some of the other group members shared some conversation with the Black Student Union at the high school about things they'd like to see in our schools, again, toward having difficult conversations about race, kind of mentoring middle school students about tolerance and issues regarding race. And Dr. Mast and some of the other group members are kind of considering, proposals for people facilitating difficult dialogues in the schools, or, other programs that we might consider. So we're just in the early planning stages now, and more to come on any potential programming later. Do you have anything to add, or did that cover it?
I think you covered it.
Okay. More detail later.
Thank you.
Sure.
I have 2 reports. I'll start with finance. We met last Monday. We discussed the hiring the consultant to do the study for transportation in the district. And what she will do, she will review all the routes, any safety issues, and she will be doing this in collaboration with the township and the police. We also talked about the bid opening for the park masonry project, and we also discussed the long-range facility plan, and we also recommended all of the above. We also had a community relations committee meeting. We settled on the purpose of our committee, which we said to engage and communicate with the SPF community through various methods, create and maintain a presence in the community, and promote positive relations with the community at large. We're finalizing our goals regarding that, and we revisited some of the things that we accomplished for the year. Which includes one of the big things is the website, but the website is very dynamic, so we have to just keep reviewing it and looking at it, making suggestions, so on and so forth. The Twitter handle is tremendously successful. We just need to keep promoting that as well. And we are discussing things that we want to accomplish for the rest of the school year. I think everything? That's good. I think so. Okay. Thank you.
The reports? Okay, seeing none, then we'll move on. Letters from the board. One LET, email from Ms. Diane Schweitzer regarding the field lighting at the high school. And she spoke earlier as well. Superintendent's report, Dr. Mans.
Thank you. For 1S, out-of-district placement, I would like to move the Board of Education approve the placement for case number 10-09.
Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Second, Mrs. Brody. A second from Mrs. Winkler. Any question or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries.
I will group the next few.
Okay.
So I would like to, for 2S, harassment, intimidation, and bullying, move that the Board of Education affirms the superintendent's decision in 7 December HIB cases. 4 cases were determined to be HIB, as reported in executive session on December 19th. 3S, there are some field trip approvals. I would like the board to move that the Board of Education approves the following field trips. We have AP Language and Composition teachers bringing 50 students to see Hadestown at the Walter Kerr Theater in New York City on January 27th and 29th. We have physical education teachers bringing 40 students to Meta Casa Yoga Studio. We have high school world language teacher who would like to take approximately 25 students from grades 9 to 12 to Quebec City on May 1st through May 4th. And our science supervisor and math supervisor would like to take approximately 30 female students from grades 7 to 10 from Park and Terrell and the high school to Princeton University's Frick Chemistry Laboratory. The Young Women's Conference in Science, Technology, and Engineering and Mathematics introduces middle school and high school aged girls to women scientists and engineers, and the wide breadth of careers available to them in these fields. There are prominent female scientists and engineers from around the region that they would spend the day with and get to learn about different career options. I'd like to also add 5S with an asterisk that the board moves to approve the block schedule pilot for the 2020-2021 school year as reported by Dr. Heisey at a previous Board of Education meeting.
Okay, someone want to make a motion on those items?
So moved. Second. What's a roll call?
Do I have the second?
Yeah.
Okay. Any question or discussion?
Who was the second?
Tanya.
Okay. Okay, well, the last one is a roll call vote, so.
So if we're moving them together, we should just do a roll call vote on all items here.
Okay. Mrs. Aradaki, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Brody?
Yes.
Mrs. Williams?
Yes.
Mrs. Bauer?
Yes.
Mrs. Boroff?
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell? Mrs. Suriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Winkler?
Yes, with the note I need to abstain from 2S. I was not here to hear about those cases or decisions.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Dr. Kulikowski?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
Okay, and we have 4S, annual approval of memorandum of agreement with law enforcement officials. Move that the Board of Education approves the 2019 revisions of the memorandum of agreement with law enforcement. And so 6S, we have the proposed 12-month employee 2020-2021 calendar. Move that the Board of Education approves the proposed 12-month employee calendar for that time period.
Both will be for next meeting.
Those both will be for next meeting.
Thank you. Dr. Mass, you want to continue with personnel?
The personnel agenda. Move that the Board of Education approves the superintendent's recommendations for personnel on the personnel report dated January 23rd.
So moved.
Second.
Any question or discussion? All those in favor? Oh, excuse me. Roll call. Ms. Saradagi, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Winkler?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mrs. Bauer?
Yes.
Mrs. Boroff?
Yes.
Mrs. Brody?
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mrs. Siriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Williams? Yes. Dr. Kulikowski?
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you, Dr. Mass.
You're welcome.
And that brings us right back to you, Mrs. Saradagi, for the business functions.
Yes. I'll group the items that we'd like to vote on this evening. I'm sorry, 3BUS should be asterisks.
It is on my paper. It is on mine.
It is on mine.
It wasn't on mine. 1BUS, I'm asking the board to approve the superintendent's recommendations for staff training reimbursements on the report dated January 23rd. 2BUS, I'm asking for the board to approve the settlement agreement for a student placed at Cambridge School. For the settlement agreement is for 3 years. Transportation will be provided by the district, and any additional expenses shall be the responsibility of the parents. 3BUS, I'm asking for approval of private vendor for nursing services for a student. 4BUS, asking for approval for submission of the 2020-2021 ELLI grant application for preschool funding plan in the amount of $49,500. This is an annual grant that we get in the same amount every year. And then the only other item that I'm asking for approval this evening is the last item on your agenda, which is 15. Yes. 15BUS, the approval of the 5-year long-range facility plan for submission. Potter Architects has done the work on this for us in consultation with myself and Mr. Miranda as far as projects go. And it is permitted to be adjusted over that 5-year period if we want to send in for it to be adjusted. We can send in a form and they will add something that we neglected to include or didn't know about at the time. So it's not cast in stone, but I'd like the board's approval to submit the plan as what they've seen.
So moved. Thank you, Mrs. Winkler. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mrs. Boroff, thank you. Any question or discussion?
Can you just explain a little further what the ELLI grant is? Is that...
It's a preschool grant.
Where does that come from?
The state of New Jersey. And it's, I don't know why Scotch Plains gets it, because I can tell you that other districts that get it are much more in need. But
I was going to ask, is there particular programming that we do that is
I don't know where it originated from as far. Do you know anything about that?
There's particular programming that we need to do by receiving those monies. It was initially, I believe, the state's first effort to expand pre-K, and we already had a strong program in place, so we applied for it then. It's been quite a few years.
Okay.
I'll jump in there. So the ELLI grant was given to districts who signed up for preschool early. So it was basically an incentive for districts to sign up for state-funded preschool programs before most districts were doing preschool. So if you've been getting it for a while, that's why.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you. Okay, we had a motion, a second. Any other comments? Okay, then, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Are you going to go through the other ones?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. The ones I'll be asking for to be approved next week. I got it. Thank you. 5 BUS will have more information on the transportation study proposal. I had a couple questions on the proposal that I want to review with the contractor. 6 BUS will be the contract renewal with Jersey Professional Management for our shared services. Fanwood and Scotch Plains have passed this. It's up to the board whether they want to renew it. They do a very good job of keeping the meetings very balanced and under control.
And they take minutes and all, too.
Yes. 7 BUS, I'll be asking for the board to approve our GASB 75 for 2019-20 for the audit. This is required by the state of New Jersey to have these actuarial services performed. 8 BUS, I'll be asking for contract renewal with Prevention Specialists Incorporated for our randomized drug and alcohol testing for our transportation personnel. This year, there's a new law from the federal government, a new DOT Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration Clearinghouse program, which we're required to participate in, and all our drivers are required to participate in. And so for prevention specialists to be able to have access and enter into the system, it's an additional $195 going forward. 9 BUS, hopefully the bid goes smoothly next week. The bid opening next Tuesday, that we can have a decision by Thursday. I'm sure we can try to turn this. Are you around next week?
I will be available, yes.
And so we'll be asking for approval of the restoration on Park Middle School. 10 BUS, I'll be asking for the board to acknowledge receipt of the fire drill reports and security drill reports for the month of December. 11 BUS, I'll be asking the board to acknowledge information received about the bus evacuation drills for the fall-winter season. 12 BUS, I'll be asking the board to acknowledge receipt of the board secretary reports, treasurer of school fund reports, and budget adjustments for December 2019. 13 BUS, I'll be asking for the board to acknowledge receipt of other disbursement listings for the month of December 2019. 14 BUS, I'll be asking for the board to approve the bills for the period December 14th through January 24th. 15 BUS, the board approved this evening. Any questions?
Anybody? No questions? Okay. Board policies, any policies tonight? Stay tuned. Okay, thank you. New board business. No one has any new board business. Other board business, 1 OBB is request to attend workshops. Any workshop reports? 2 OBB, at our next meeting, we have the resolution for Black History Month in February, so someone will be reading that. 3 OBB, School Board Recognition Month, another resolution for next meeting. 4 OBB, the 2020 Board Committee assignments, and I believe they are not changed from last year. So just double check where you are located on the roster.
And also at our next meeting, 5 OBB, the revision of the the March board meeting date. We'll be moving, that we're going to change the meeting that was originally scheduled on Tuesday, March 17th.
Could we vote on that so we can advertise it?
Yes, we certainly can. So tonight, can I have a motion? Well, I'll make the motion. We move that the Board of Education approves changing the March open agenda board meeting date to Thursday, March 12th from Tuesday, March 17th. So we're going to be bringing it forward 5 days. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Any question or discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. And Mrs. Saradaki, while we're on OBB, I know we didn't get to read one of these resolutions because the person was not here this evening. Can I read it now? The motion was for Ms. Caitlin Franz. And it said, whereas Caitlin Franz, a district student assistant specialist in the Scotch Plains Fanwood Public Schools, has been named the Scotch Plains Fanwood High School recipient of the 2019-2020 Governor's Educational Professional of the Year. And whereas Caitlin Franz is a compassionate advocate that understands and cares about her students, the school, as well as her colleagues. And whereas Caitlin Franz always has time for someone who enters her office. The students and the staff seek out her advice, knowing they will receive sound feedback. And whereas Caitlin Franz's involvement with the Green Dot Initiative, in addition to many other important initiatives, has changed the culture of the high school in many positive ways. Whereas Caitlin Franz has been an advocate for the district's social, emotional programming and has collaborated with many district staff in meeting the diverse needs of children of all ages. And whereas Caitlin Franz is a creative and caring student assistance specialist who has earned the respect and admiration of her students and their parents, her colleagues and their administrators for her unselfish commitment to her students in the district. Now therefore be it resolved that the Scotch Plains Fanwood Board of Education recognizes and commends Caitlin Franz for being honored as Scotch Plains Fanwood's recipient of the 2019-2020 Governor's Educational Professional of the Year and extends to her best wishes for her continued success. And I'm sorry she couldn't be with us tonight, but she is a fantastic person and I'm glad to see her get this award.
Do you want a second?
I was just going to say.
Go ahead. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. No one's going to say no to that. Okay, at our next meeting, we will be approving the minutes from the December 19th regular board meeting, executive session, and the public session. At this time, in accordance with the Scotch Plains Fanwood Public Schools Bylaws 0164 and 0165, the meeting will be open for 15 minutes for public comment. Maximum of 3 minutes per speaker. Speakers addressing the superintendent items, business functions, and other board business will be heard first. If time remains, speakers may address other matters. When you come to the podium, please state your name and the town in which you reside.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
My name is Michael Abadir. Okay. Just the placebo. My name is Michael.
Town? Yeah.
My name is Michael Abadir.
And the town in which you reside?
Live in Scotch Plains.
Thank you.
And I'm also a teacher at the high school. I've been teaching there for 29 years. 19 years I've been teaching chemistry. And taught some children as well, which is very privileged. First, I wanted to start with saying I'm really looking forward to the newly accepted block schedule plan that is coming into effect next year. I saw some great effects of it in my teaching, and I'm looking forward to using that next year. I also want to preface my coming comments with a thank you to our administration for your great support, Dr. Heisey, and my supervisor, Ida Faria, who have sat with me and spoken with me on several occasions about what I wanted to share with you, which are things that are close to my heart, and I appreciated their great feedback. In 1991, my first year teaching in Scotch Plains Fanwood, there was only one AP chemistry class and one AP biology class. And since that time, in 28 years, we have grown by 550% to 11 AP science classes. That's a 550% increase, which includes about 200 students and about 1/7 of our school population. A big part of the success of our program has been the fact that we have allotted 73 minutes every day to our AP Science program to afford the opportunity to do not just content, but also the required labs as per the College Board and our approved curriculum for our district. During November, we piloted the block schedule, and we had a 6-day block pilot, which went very well. Because we were taking our current schedule and merging it into the block, it was not possible to be a perfect fit, and so we actually ended up losing 3 out of 6 days, which was 50% of instructional time with the AP program, which was understandable because it was not possible to make that work with putting one into the other. Unfortunately, that put us down to about 38 minutes per day in the pilot block. Now, next year, we do have the option of not having to do that if we incorporate what I'm posing as a simple solution called the double block. On the back side, you can see that this simple solution will actually be able to nicely dovetail into the block without impacting our students negatively in time, and provide an equitable experience for everyone to have the exact same opportunities that these year's students have. For instance, in the yellow highlights, if a student has one AP Science class this year, they could take 6 other classes. Under the new double block proposal here, they could still take an AP Science with 2 blocks and still have 6 other classes. Many students take 2 AP Science classes, and those students this year can only sign up for 4 other classes. And under the double block proposal I'm presenting, they can also still take 4 other classes. Double block provides the opportunity to move into a new schedule without putting a shock onto our students or our program if they were reduced by 50% in their instructional time. If needed, next year what we could do is propose a subcommittee that could look into other solutions if we feel that we need to change that. But I just feel that if we were able to keep the double block for next year, it would not be such a shock to our program and to our students moving into a new schedule. If I can do a 30-second inspirational story, 6 years ago I had 3 students in my academic chemistry class who really loved chemistry, wanted to take AP. I said, look, you're going to have to work hard, get extra help, and it's going to be hard. They said, we'll do it. They did it. They came in for help. They did not get an A in my class. They did not get a 5 on the AP test. But those 3 students are now in college, juniors. 2 of them are pharmacy majors, teaching their classmates all that they learned in chemistry. And the 3rd one is a pre-med major in a different college. And the 2 that are pharmacy came to my classes and gave a little pep talk to all my AP Chem students. And I was really excited to see them. Those 3 students, if they had been reduced by 50% in their instructional time, I really don't believe they'd be where they are today. And that's why I feel that I just wanted to mention that to you, and I do appreciate all your time. I know that our district is going to do their very best to provide the best opportunity to our students and our program. And if anyone has any questions for me, I would be happy to sit down with you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Will there be anybody else making public comment? Okay, then I'm going to close that portion of the meeting and move on to remarks for the good of the order. Anybody have anything?
I just wanted to say real quick that I don't think that we often get a chance to really look at the field trips that our students are going on, and we as a board are more likely to look at it than most people because it comes our way. But when you look at the field trips, and it really struck me this last pass, just of how deep learning experiences they truly are, and I really have been thoroughly impressed with everyone. I don't know how people find their, if it's teacher related or if it's, but whatever the process is, it seems to be bringing really quality trips that enrich the experience from the classroom and into the real world experience. That's it.
Yeah, I would just like to say that is teacher initiated.
Well, bravo.
Thank you, Mrs. Boroff. Thank you, Dr. Mast.
I have 2 things.
Sure, go right ahead.
I attended my first live high school hockey game,
It was
Oh, my God.
an adrenaline rush. I've only seen hockey prior to that on television, and I must say, I think it's addictive. We played Cranford, we lost. I believe the score was 0-2, but still, just the level of effort and just the speed and the skill, it was amazing. I also attended the Martin Luther King Day of Service, and at that, what's truly notable for me to report on is there were members of our Black Student Union who enacted benchmark moments in Martin Luther King's life. I was just so proud of them for being there, and I was also very impressed with their theatrical ability. So that too was just an amazing slice of our student body.
I'm just going to chime into hockey. They had an alumni game, the current players, and they had alumni represented from every single year since hockey started. So it was an exciting game, and they had a lot of fun, and I think it's an annual, and it has become an annual event. So
That's great.
Very good to know.
I know you were there from the inception of all of that.
it was so interesting to see these players from so many years ago, or, it was great for the current players and so forth.
Thank you for sharing that, Mrs. Bauer. Anyone else? Happy birthday.
Thank
you. Spending it here with us. All right, our next meeting is going to be Thursday, January 30th, regular public meeting here at the board office. So if there's no further comment, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second, Mr. Murray. Second was
Tanya.
Amy. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
This